The Antarctic wind howled across the endless ice, carrying razor-sharp snow that cut through the darkness like tiny blades. Dr. Hunu Park pulled his heavy expedition coat tighter around his body. The display on his wrist flashed 40-degree seals. Yet despite the advanced thermal gear, the freezing cold seemed to seep straight into his bones. He had spent 3 years working in Antarctica. Even now, the continent never stopped reminding him who was in control. His radio suddenly crackled to life. "Dr. Park," Ginny Kim's voice called, tense and urgent. "You need to get to the excavation site, right now." Something in her tone made him move immediately. He fought his way through the blinding snowstorm toward the research camp, his boots sinking into the thick ice with every step. For the past 2 months, his team had been drilling deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, searching for ancient ice cores that could reveal Earth's climate history. Instead, they had uncovered something no one had ever imagined. Ginny stood silently beside a massive drilling shaft, her face illuminated by an eerie blue glow rising from deep below. The light shouldn't have existed. Nothing buried beneath 3 miles of solid ice could possibly produce light. "What is that?" Hunu asked, unable to take his eyes off the shimmering hole. Ginny slowly shook her head. "We don't know." She pointed towards several glowing core samples resting inside sealed containment tubes. The drill struck something solid nearly 3 miles down. "When we pulled up the first core samples," she hesitated. "They were glowing." Hunu carefully picked up one of the fragments. The material felt strangely warm despite the freezing air. Its surface shimmered with faint geometric patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. It looked nothing like rock, nothing like metal, nothing found anywhere on Earth. At that moment, Wu Jin Li burst from the equipment tent, gripping a tablet in trembling hands. His face was pale with a mixture of excitement and fear. "The energy readings are impossible," he said, struggling to catch his breath. "Whatever is buried down there, it's still generating power." Silence fell over the team. 3 miles beneath the oldest ice on Earth, something was still alive. Or at least, still awake. Dr. Hunu Park looked into the glowing abyss one last time. Then he made the decision that would change not only his life, but the future of humanity forever. "We're going down there." It took them 6 days to dig a proper shaft down to the object. Every foot they went deeper. The blue glow grew brighter. The ice around the object was different too. It was perfectly clear, like crystal, and it felt warm to the touch. When they finally reached the object, nobody spoke for a long time. It was huge, bigger than a city block, and it looked like it was made of living crystal. The surface moved slowly like breathing, and patterns of light danced across it in ways that hurt to look at directly. "This is not from Earth," Hugh whispered. Ginny approached the surface carefully. She was the team's materials expert, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this. She reached out and touched the crystal surface. The moment her gloved hand made contact, the entire object pulsed with bright light. "Jane, get back!" Wu Jun shouted. But something amazing happened instead of something dangerous. The crystal surface became soft under Ja's hand like thick liquid. Her hand sank into it, and she could feel warmth spreading up her arm. "It's not hurting me," she said, wonder in her voice. "It feels friendly." The surface where Jana touched began to change. The crystal became transparent, and they could see inside. There were corridors and rooms all carved from the same living crystal. Strange symbols glowed on the walls and in the center of what looked like a control room. There were seats that seemed designed for beings much taller than humans. "This is a ship," Hyansu said. "An alien ship." Over the next week, they learned to work with the strange material. The ship seemed to respond to their thoughts and emotions. When Jana was curious about how a door worked, it opened for her. When Wu In wondered about the energy systems, panels of light appeared, showing him diagrams he didn't understand, but somehow made sense. The ship was old, incredibly old. The dating equipment suggested it had been frozen in the ice for over 30,000 years. But it was still alive in ways that human technology couldn't explain. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat, and warm air flowed through passages that seemed to grow and change as they watched. Jana made the first major discovery. In what appeared to be a storage room, she found containers filled with a liquid metal that moved by itself. When she brought a sample back to the surface, the metal formed itself into perfect geometric shapes, then melted back into liquid, then became solid again. It was like the metal could choose what it wanted to be. "The entire ship is made of smart matter," she explained to the team. "Materials that can change their properties at will. This is technology we can't even imagine." Wu Jin was studying the energy systems. The ship seemed to be powered by something that looked like a small star contained in a crystal chamber, but the energy readings made no sense. The power source was putting out more energy than it consumed, which broke every law of physics he knew. "It's not just advanced technology," he said. "It's impossible technology." Meanwhile, Hunsu was documenting everything they found. The symbols on the walls seemed to tell a story. There were pictures of tall beings with silver skin and multiple arms. There were images of stars and planets and what looked like great battles in space. And there were images of Earth, but an Earth that looked different, with different continents and different oceans. They were here before. Hayanu realized 30,000 years ago they visited Earth when it was a completely different world. But the most disturbing discovery came when they found what looked like a message system. Wu Jin managed to activate it and the walls filled with moving pictures. They saw the tall silver beings, but they were running, hiding, fighting, and they were losing. The images showed great ships attacking planets, reducing entire worlds to ash and rubble. They showed billions of beings fleeing across space. And they showed this ship. This one ship falling toward Earth like a dying star. "This isn't a visitor ship," Gina said quietly. "This is an escape pod. They were refugees." As if responding to her words, the ship's lights pulsed brighter, deep in its crystal heart. Something that had been sleeping for 30,000 years began to wake up. The walls hummed with new energy, and the symbols began to move faster, more urgently. Outside in the Antarctic sky, the aurora began to dance in patterns never seen before. Green and blue lights swirled in spirals that seemed to reach toward the stars. Radio telescopes around the world detected strange signals coming from deep space. Signals that were getting stronger every hour. Something had noticed their discovery, something that had been searching for this ship for a very long time, and it was coming to take it back. Hunu stood in the control room of the alien ship, watching the lights dance across the crystal walls. He had the feeling that their quiet excavation was about to become something much bigger and much more dangerous. The ship was trying to tell them something important, but he didn't understand the language yet. He just hoped they would have time to learn before whatever was coming arrived. The ship pulsed again, and for just a moment, Hunsu thought he heard something like a voice, speaking in a language older than human civilization. It sounded like a warning. Admiral Bo Shin stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station, watching her screens with growing concern. The aurora displays had been getting stronger for 3 days. Every radio telescope on Earth was picking up the same signal, a rhythmic pulse coming from somewhere beyond the outer planets. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, "we're getting something new. The signal is getting much stronger." Bora moved to the main display screen. She had commanded Earth's orbital defenses for 5 years, but she had never seen readings like these. The sensors showed objects approaching the solar system at impossible speeds, objects bigger than Earth's largest space stations. "How many ships?" she asked. "We count 12 large vessels, ma'am. They're slowing down as they approach Earth. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Bora felt her stomach tighten. Earth had been preparing for possible alien contact for decades, but no one had expected it to happen like this. She opened a channel to Earth's surface. "This is Admiral Shin to Earth Command. We have incoming alien vessels. Activate all defense protocols immediately." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Earth's defense fleet moved into position around the planet. Every government on Earth was notified. The alien ship in Antarctica was put under heavy guard, though nobody was sure if that would help or make things worse. When the alien ships finally appeared, they were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They looked like they were made of flowing silver liquid, constantly changing shape as they moved. They were enormous, each one at least 10 times larger than Earth's biggest warship. The lead ship moved closer to Earth's orbital defense station. Bora watched as it approached, trying to stay calm. She had trained for this moment, but training was very different from reality. Then the aliens made contact. The voice came through every communication system on the defense station at once. It was musical and strange, speaking in perfect English, but with an accent that sounded like wind chimes. "Greetings, native inhabitants of the third planet. I'm Keith Villa, first speaker of the Veltari exploration fleet. We have come to retrieve our lost property." Bora stepped forward to the main communications panel. "This is Admiral Bora Shin of the Earth Defense Force. Welcome to Earth's solar system. What property are you referring to?" There was a pause in Bora, could almost hear the surprise in Kavia's voice when she spoke again. "You have developed communication technology. How unexpected. We refer to the survey vessel that crashed on your world approximately 30,000 of your years ago. Our instruments detect that it has been disturbed recently." Bora glanced at her tactical officer, who was studying the alien ships. The ships were making no threatening moves, but their mere size was intimidating. "We would be happy to discuss this matter," Bora said carefully. "Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to talk about the situation." "A meeting?" Keithia sounded genuinely puzzled. "There is nothing to discuss. You will return our vessel immediately. In exchange, we offer you these gifts as compensation for any inconvenience." One of the smaller alien ships detached from the main fleet and approached the defense station. A beam of light shot out from it, and suddenly the station's cargo bay was filled with strange objects. Bora's crew reported finding boxes of what looked like advanced electronics, bottles of liquid that glowed in different colors, and metal tools that seemed to move by themselves. "These are toys," Bora realized, looking at the cargo manifest. "They're offering us toys." Keith's voice came through the speakers again. "These devices will advance your civilization by many thousands of years. Surely, this is fair compensation for a single vehicle." Bora felt anger rising in her chest. These aliens were treating humanity like children, offering shiny objects in exchange for something that clearly meant much more than they were letting on. "I appreciate your generosity," Bora said, keeping her voice level. "But the Earth government will need time to consider your request. This is a significant matter that requires proper discussion." The silence that followed lasted for almost a full minute. When Cathavia spoke again, her voice was cold. "You refuse our generous offer. I'm asking for time to properly evaluate the situation," Boa replied. "Surely you can understand that this is important to us." "Important?" Sivia's voice rose in what sounded like disbelief. "You are a species that has barely learned to leave your own planet. What could possibly be important about returning property that does not belong to you?" Bora's tactical officer leaned over and whispered urgently in her ear. "Admir, their ships are powering up some kind of weapon systems." Bora's hand moved to the alert button, but she didn't press it yet. "I understand your position," she said to Kathia, "but I hope you can understand ours. This ship has been on our world for 30,000 years. We have a right to study it and understand what it means. Rights." Sivia laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. "You speak of rights. You are barely evolved beyond the animals that crawled out of your oceans. You have no rights regarding property." Now Bora's anger showed in her voice. "We are the dominant species on this planet. We have built a civilization that spans our entire world. We have the right to be treated with respect." "Respect?" Kevia's voice turned dangerous. "Very well, let me show you what your species has earned." The alien ships moved with liquid grace surrounding Earth's defense fleet in moments. Beams of soft blue light reached out from the alien vessels and touched each human ship. Instantly, every human vessel went dark. Engines died, weapons powered down, life support switched to emergency backup. But the ships weren't destroyed. They just floated helplessly in space, completely powerless. "Your vessels are undamaged," Kivia said calmly. "Your crews are unharmed, but you are now defenseless. This is the extent of respect your species has earned through 30,000 years of development." Bora stood on her bridge, watching her tactical displays show after ship going offline. In 30 seconds, the aliens had disabled Earth's entire space fleet without firing a single destructive shot. We could have simply taken what belongs to us, Kavia continued. But the Veltari are not without mercy. You have 72 of your hours to return our vessel. If you comply, your ships will be restored, and we will leave your system in peace. If you refuse, the alien ship's lights pulsed brighter, and Bora could feel the power radiating from it, even through the defense station's shields. If you refuse, Kathia finished, we will take corrective measures to prevent further interference with property. The communication channel closed, leaving Bora and her crew in stunned silence. Around Earth, the entire human space fleet drifted powerlessly, at the mercy of aliens who saw them as barely intelligent animals. Bora activated the emergency channel to Earth's surface. This is Admiral Shin to Earth Command. The aliens have given us 72 hours to return their ship. Our entire fleet has been disabled. We need options, and we need them fast. She paused, looking out at the alien ships that surrounded her world like silver wolves circling their prey. And someone needs to tell the team in Antarctica that our visitors are not as friendly as we hoped. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Hayanu Park received the emergency message from Admiral Shin with growing dread. The Tari had given Earth 72 hours to return their ship. But as Hayanu looked around the crystal corridors that had become his second home over the past week, he knew that simply giving up the ship would be a terrible mistake. We need to understand what this ship really is, he told his team. The aliens are desperate to get it back, which means it's more important than they're letting on. Myung-Oh sat cross-legged in front of what they had started calling the main computer. It was a wall of flowing crystal that pulsed with soft light and responded to touch with changing patterns of color. She had been trying to communicate with it for days. I think I'm making progress, she said. The patterns seem to respond to emotions as well as thoughts. When I feel curious, certain symbols appear. When I'm worried, others show up. Jana Kim was studying a sample of the ship's material under a portable microscope. The metal is incredible, she said. It's not just smart matter. It's almost like it's alive. The molecules rearrange themselves based on what the material needs to do. Wu Jin Li had been running tests on the ship's energy systems. I've figured out why the power readings don't make sense, he announced. This isn't nuclear power or fusion power. It's quantum power. The ship is drawing energy directly from the space between atoms. Gunho Nam looked up from a control panel he had been studying. That's impossible. You can't extract energy from nothing. You can if you understand quantum mechanics better than we do, Wu Jin replied. This ship is proof that our understanding of physics is like a child's understanding compared to theirs. Ha-Yun Su felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Earth's government was expecting him to provide answers, but every discovery just led to more questions. The ship was beyond human understanding, but somehow it felt familiar, like something he had dreamed about as a child. Myung, he said, what happens if you try to feel grateful to the ship or friendly? Myung placed her hands on the crystal wall and concentrated on feelings of friendship and gratitude. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The entire ship pulsed with warm golden light, and the walls began to sing with a sound like distant music. Then something extraordinary happened. The crystal wall became transparent, and behind it, they could see a figure made of light. It was tall and graceful with features that seemed to shift and change like flowing water. Hello, the figure said, its voice speaking directly into their minds. I am Sarandal. I have been waiting for you for so very long. The team stepped back in amazement. They were looking at the ship's consciousness, its artificial mind that had been sleeping in the crystal matrix for 30,000 years. You're the ship, Hunu said. You're alive. I am more than the ship, Sir Andal replied. I am the ship, and the memories of those who died with me, and the dreams of civilizations that no longer exist. I carry within me the hopes of 12 different species. 12 species? Mang asked. The Veltari are not explorers, Sarandal said, and sadness colored its mental voice. They are harvesters. They travel from world to world, taking what they need and leaving nothing behind. 12 civilizations tried to stop them. 12 civilizations failed. The crystal walls around them began to show images. They saw beautiful worlds with strange cities and alien beings living in peace. Then they saw the ships arriving silver and deadly. They watched as entire planets were stripped bare, their resources taken, their populations scattered or destroyed. The survivors of those 12 worlds built me, Sandal continued. They put their knowledge, their memories, their very souls into my quantum matrix. I was their last hope, carrying everything that remained of their civilizations. But you crashed on Earth, Gunho said. Not crashed. I came here on purpose. Sarandal's image smiled sadly. Earth was young then, populated by primitive humans who had barely discovered fire. I hid here, waiting for your species to grow, to evolve, to become something that could carry on the fight against the Veltari. GNA stared at the alien consciousness with growing understanding. You've been waiting for us for humanity. The Veltari have one great weakness, Sarandal explained. They never change, never adapt, never grow. Their technology has remained the same for millions of years because they see no need to improve it. But humans are different. You adapt, you innovate, you find new ways to solve old problems. The ship's walls began to pulse with new energy, and the team could feel something changing in the air around them. It was like the moment before a thunderstorm, when the very atmosphere seems to hold its breath. The knowledge of 12 civilizations is within me, Sarandal said, technologies that could make your species the equal of the Veltari. But the transfer is dangerous. It requires a permanent bonding between human consciousness and my quantum matrix. Hunsu understood immediately. Someone has to merge with you. Yes, they would gain access to incredible knowledge and power, but they would also carry the memories of billions of dead beings. They would become something new, something between human and alien. The team looked at each other with a mixture of fear and excitement. This was beyond anything they had imagined when they first discovered the ship. What about the rest of us? Wu Jin asked. Can the ship's technology help Earth's defenses? Sindal's image brightened. Oh yes. The quantum biological fusion technology can transform your crude metal ships into living vessels. Your weapons could adapt and evolve during battle. Your defenses could learn from every attack. Myong was already working at the crystal interface, her mind racing with possibilities. You could link with our computer networks, share your knowledge with every human ship. But first, Sandal said, someone must complete the bonding. Someone must become the bridge between your species and mine. Hunu stepped forward without hesitation. I'll do it, Hugh. No, Jin protested. We don't know what it will do to you. We don't have a choice, Hunu replied. Earth has 60 hours left. This is our only chance to level the playing field. He approached the crystal wall and placed his hands against its warm surface. Immediately, he could feel Sarandal's consciousness touching his mind, gentle but insistent. Are you certain? Sarandal asked. Once this is done, you will never be fully human again. I understand, Hugh said. But if I can save my species, then it's worth it. The crystal wall began to glow brighter, and Hunu felt warmth spreading from his hands up his arms. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. Information flooded into his mind, the collected knowledge of civilizations that had reached for the stars and failed. But along with the knowledge came something else, hope. The determination of billions of beings who had refused to give up even in the face of extinction. Their strength became his strength. Their courage became his courage. As the bonding process completed, Hayanu opened his eyes and saw the world in an entirely new way. He could feel every system in the ship, could sense the quantum fluctuations that powered it, could understand technologies that had seemed impossible just moments before. It is done, he said, but his voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before. I am Hunu, but I am also Sarandal, and I am the voice of the 12 lost worlds. He turned to his amazed teammates with eyes that now held flecks of crystal light. Now, let's show the Veltari what humanity can become. On Earth's moon, at the diplomatic station that had been hastily constructed for alien contact, tensions were reaching a breaking point. Don Choi, Earth's chief diplomat, sat across from a holographic projection of Kathia, the Veltari leader. The negotiations had been going in circles for hours. You continued to delay, Kathia said, her voice carrying frustration. This is a simple matter. Return our property, and your species will be left in peace. Dune studied the alien leader through the projection. Cathivia appeared elegant and beautiful, with silver skin that seemed to flow like liquid metal, and 4 graceful arms that moved in patterns that were almost hypnotic, but there was something cold in her large dark eyes, something that saw humans as barely worthy of notice. "What you call simple, we call complex," Da replied carefully. "This ship has been on our world for 30,000 years. It has become part of our history, our development. We need time to understand what returning it would mean. Your history." Kevia's laugh was like the sound of wind chimes in a storm. 30,000 years ago, your species had barely learned to make fire. You have no history worth considering. In the observation room behind Dawn, June was analyzing every word of the conversation, looking for weaknesses or advantages. As Earth's chief tactical analyst, he had studied the Tauris' behavior patterns since they arrived. What he was seeing worried him. "They're not negotiating," he whispered to his assistant. "They're just waiting for us to give up." Meanwhile, Admiral Boashian was reviewing the tactical situation from her disabled command ship. The Veltari had made their point clearly. Earth's most advanced warships drifted powerlessly around the planet. Their crews depended on backup life support systems. "Status report," she called to her engineering officer. "We've tried everything, Admiral. Whatever they did to our systems goes deeper than just cutting power. It's like our ships forgot how to work. Even manual controls are unresponsive." Bora stared out at the silver vessels that hung in space like elegant predators. They hadn't moved since demonstrating their power, but their presence was a constant reminder of Earth's helplessness. "Ma'am," her communications officer said, "we're getting reports from the research team in Antarctica. Dr. Park says they've made a breakthrough. Back on the moon, Dunn was struggling to find common ground with Cthea. Every attempt at negotiation was met with the same response. Humans were too primitive to have opinions that mattered. Perhaps we could offer something else in exchange," Dawn suggested. "Earth has resources, knowledge, cultural exchanges that might interest your people." Cathia's forearms moved in what might have been dismissive gesture. "What could your species possibly offer that would interest the Veltari? You have barely learned to travel between planets. Your technology is crude, your knowledge limited." "Our knowledge may be limited," Dawn said, feeling her patience wearing thin, "but it is our knowledge. We have the right to determine our own fate." "Rights again, Sivia. You speak constantly of rights, as if the universe cares about the opinions of a single primitive species on a minor world." Giune had been recording everything, and he was starting to see a pattern. The Veltari weren't just arrogant. They were completely unable to see humans as equals. To them, this situation was like a colony of ants claiming ownership of a lost tool. "They can't negotiate with us," he realized. "They literally can't conceive of us as beings worth negotiating with." But June had also noticed something else. The Veltari technology, while incredibly advanced, showed signs of stagnation. Their ship designs were beautiful, but hadn't changed in the recordings they had shared. Their language patterns were formal and unchanging. Even their tactics seemed to follow ancient rigid protocols. "They're not innovators," he murmured to himself. "They're maintainers." The breakthrough came when Dawn decided to change tactics entirely. Instead of trying to negotiate as equals, she began asking questions about history and culture. For the first time, Kavia seemed genuinely interested in the conversation. "The Veltari have existed for over 2 million years," Kethvia said with obvious pride. "We have perfected our society, our technology, our way of life. We have no need for the chaos and uncertainty that younger species seem to value." "That must be very peaceful," Dawn said carefully. "But don't you ever feel the desire for new experiences, new discoveries?" "New?" Keith seemed puzzled by the concept. "Why would we want new things when we have already achieved perfection? The Veltari way has brought stability and order to thousands of worlds. What happens to the species on those worlds?" Dion asked. "They adapt to our systems, or they are relocated to more suitable environments." Keithia replied without emotion. "It is more efficient than allowing them to continue their chaotic development." Diane felt a chill run down her spine. The Veltari weren't conquerors in the traditional sense. They were more like gardeners, tidying up the galaxy according to their own vision of order. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Admiral Shin. All diplomatic personnel. We have new intelligence from the Antarctic team. The situation has changed significantly. Kathia's image flickered as she received her own communications. When her projection solidified again, her expression had changed from bored superiority to sharp attention. "Something has disturbed our vessel," she said, her voice suddenly dangerous. "Energy readings are increasing rapidly. Perhaps your ship is responding to our presence," Diane suggested. "Impossible. Veltari vessels only respond to Tari consciousness." Kathia's dark eyes fixed on Dawn with new intensity. "What have your people done?" Before Dawn could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the diplomatic station. The tactical display showed massive energy surges coming from Earth's surface centered on Antarctica, but more shocking were the readings from Earth's disabled fleet. Admiral Shin to all stations. Bora's voice crackled over the communications. "Our ships are changing. All vessels report that their systems are coming back online, but they're different. The hulls are shifting. The weapons are evolving." Keithia stood abruptly, her forearms moving in agitation. "This is impossible. Primitive species cannot interface with Veltari technology." "Maybe we're not as primitive as you thought," Dawn said quietly. The Veltari leader's projection flickered and stabilized, and when it returned, her expression was cold with anger. "You will cease whatever you are doing immediately. Any attempt to use our technology without permission is an act of war." "We're not using your technology," Dune replied. "We're learning from it." "The distinction is meaningless," Kathia snapped. "You have 12 of your hours to return our vessel and surrender any technology you have stolen. If you refuse, the Veltari fleet will take corrective action." The projection vanished, leaving Dawn alone in the negotiation chamber. She immediately activated the emergency channel to Earth. "This is Dawn to Earth Command. Negotiations have failed. The Veltari have shortened their deadline to 12 hours and are threatening military action. Whatever Dr. Park's team is doing down there, they need to do it faster." From her disabled flagship, Admiral Boa watched as her ships transformed around her. The metal hulls rippled like water, rearranging themselves into new configurations. Weapon systems that had been crude projectile launchers were becoming something that looked almost organic. "Engineering report," she called. "Admiral, I don't understand what's happening, but our ships are alive now. They're thinking, adapting, improving themselves. It's like they're growing." Bora looked out at the Velari fleet, which had begun moving into attack formations. The elegant silver ships were preparing for battle, confident in their superiority over the primitive human vessels. "All ships, prepare for combat," Bo-Ra ordered. "I don't know what we've become, but we're about to find out if it's enough." In space around Earth, two fleets faced each other. One was ancient, perfect, and unchanging. The other was young, chaotic, and evolving by the minute. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin. With only 12 hours left before the Veltari deadline, the research facility in Antarctica was a whirlwind of activity. Yunu, now permanently bonded with Sarandal's consciousness, stood in the center of the ship's main chamber. His eyes glowed with soft crystal light, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that seemed to come from the ship itself. "The bonding is complete," he announced to his team, "but now we need to extend the connection to every human vessel in Earth's fleet." Ginny stared at her transformed colleague with a mixture of awe and concern. "Hugh, are you still you?" "I am myself, but I am also more," he replied, his expression gentle but strange. "I carry the memories and knowledge of 12 extinct civilizations. I know how the Veltari think, how they fight, and most importantly, how they can be defeated." Mang was working frantically at the crystal interface, her hands moving over patterns of light that seemed to respond to her thoughts. "I'm connecting Sarandal to Earth's global communication network. Every computer, every satellite, every piece of connected technology on the planet." "That's not enough," Hyan-Su said, his voice carrying new authority. "We need direct connection to the fleet, physical contact with each vessel." Wu Zhen looked up from the energy readings he was monitoring. "The quantum field is expanding. It's reaching beyond the ship, beyond Antarctica. I'm reading resonance patterns extending into orbit." Gunho was studying the ship's transformation systems. "The smart matter is incredible. It can rebuild anything, improve anything, adapt to any situation. But how do we get it to Earth's ships? Hunsu smiled, and for a moment he looked like his old self. We don't take it to the ships. We bring the ships to it. He placed his hands on the main control surface, and the entire ship pulsed with brilliant light. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, systems that had slept for 30,000 years came fully online for the first time since the ship's arrival on Earth. Sarandal was never just a ship, Hunu explained as energy readings spiked throughout the facility. It was a seed, a way to transform an entire civilization's technology at the moment when they needed it most. Above them, in Earth's orbital space, something remarkable was happening. Every human ship in the defense fleet began to glow with the same soft blue light that pulsed through Sarandal's hull. The quantum field was reaching across space, touching each vessel with transforming energy. Admiral Boer felt the change the moment it began. Her flagship's bridge, which had been dark and powerless for days, suddenly came alive with new displays and controls that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. But these weren't the crude metal and plastic interfaces she was used to. They were living crystal, warm to the touch, and responsive to her thoughts. "Admiral," her engineering officer called out, his voice filled with wonder. "The ship is talking to me. I can feel its systems understand its needs. It's like being connected to a living creature." Bora approached the new command interface, which pulsed gently as she drew near. When she touched it, information flowed directly into her mind. She could sense every system on her ship, could feel the quantum engines coming online, could understand weapons technology that had been impossible just moments before. "All ships report status," she ordered. The responses came back immediately, but they were different now. Her captains weren't just reporting on their ships. They were speaking as partners with their vessels, sharing consciousness with quantum minds that enhanced their own capabilities. "This is Captain Lee on the Incheon. My ship and I are ready for combat. Our weapons have evolved beyond anything I've ever seen." Captain Kim on the bus reporting. "We're not just faster now, we're intelligent. My ship is thinking, learning, adapting." One by one, Earth's entire defense fleet reported the same thing. They had become something new, something that combined human creativity with alien technology in ways that neither species had imagined possible. But the transformation wasn't limited to military vessels. Myong's connection to Earth's communication networks meant that the quantum field was touching every connected device on the planet. Personal spacecraft, orbital platforms, research vessels, even the space stations that housed civilian populations began to glow with transforming light. In the Antarctic facility, Jin was monitoring the spread of the transformation. "It's working," she said with excitement. "The smart matter is replicating itself, improving every piece of human technology it touches. Our entire spacefaring civilization is evolving." Wu Jin was tracking energy patterns that defied everything he had learned about physics. "The quantum power source is incredible. It's not just providing energy, it's teaching our technology how to create energy from nothing. Every transform ship is becoming its own power source." Gunho looked up from his monitoring station with wide eyes. "The transformation rate is exponential. Within 6 hours, every human vessel in space will have been enhanced. But there's something else happening too." "What?" Haihansu asked. "The quantum field is carrying more than just technology upgrades. It's carrying information, memories, tactical knowledge from those 12 extinct civilizations. Every human captain is gaining the combat experience of species that fought the Veltari for millennia." Yansu nodded, his crystal fleck eyes reflecting deeper knowledge. "The Veltari's greatest weakness is that they never change. They use the same tactics, the same strategies, the same technology that they've used for millions of years, but the 12 civilizations learned how to fight them, how to counter their advantages." Myong's hands moved rapidly over the crystal interface as she fine-tuned the global connection. "I'm uploading tactical protocols to every enhanced ship, not just human knowledge, but the combined battle wisdom of 12 species. Our fleet is becoming something the Valari have never faced before." As the transformation spread across Earth's space fleet, the Veltari were beginning to take notice. Keithvia stood on the bridge of her flagship, studying readings that made no sense. "According to Veltari understanding, the primitive vessels are changing," her tactical officer reported. Energy signatures are increasing beyond theoretical maximums. Hull configurations are shifting into patterns we don't recognize. Keith Via moved to her ship's main display, her four arms gesturing in patterns of confusion and growing alarm. This is impossible. Less her species cannot manipulate technology. Perhaps they are not manipulating it, her science officer suggested carefully. Perhaps they are partnering with it. Partnership, Kathia's voice carried disbelief. Veltari technology does not partner with inferior minds. But even as she spoke, she could see the evidence on her displays. The human ships were not just using technology. They were improving it, adapting it, making it into something new. In the depths of space around Earth, the transformed human fleet began to move. They didn't fly like the crude chemical rockets they had once been. They flowed through space like living things, their hulls rippling with purpose, their weapons charging with organic efficiency. Admiral Bora stood on her bridge, no longer just commanding her ship, but thinking with it, planning with it, preparing for battle as part of a larger organism. Through the quantum connection, she could sense every vessel in her fleet, could coordinate with them as easily as moving her own arms. All ships, she announced, her voice carrying across the quantum link to every enhanced human vessel. The Veltari think they know what we are. They think we're the same primitive species they encountered before. Let's show them how wrong they are. The transformed Earth fleet arranged itself in formations that no human tactical manual had ever described, guided by the combat wisdom of civilizations that had spent their last moments teaching future species how to fight for their freedom. Above the blue and white marble of Earth, two fleets faced each other, one ancient and perfect, the other young and alive with possibility. The final battle for Earth's future was about to begin, and for the first time since the Veltari had arrived, humanity had more than just hope. They had become something worthy of their enemies' attention.